Okay, tonight we're going to start with, we're going to go through the geographical survey. And so what you need to get out is a copy of the world map, something like this. And it may have been handed to you in your notes tonight, but that's where we're going to start, right here. Because all of Old Testament history happens on this map. Now you can have it like this, or you can have the version that doesn't have all the words over here in the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, so let's start off. First we got to hear from Sam Clam. He says, I tried to warn my friends that Pharaoh's chariots were coming, but my cell phone broke. Okay, this is the Great Sea, otherwise known as the Mediterranean. This is the Red Sea for victory, right? Okay, Red Sea. This right here is the Dead Sea, Jordan River, Sea of Galilee. You people can read very well. That's excellent. All right, now over here is the Persian Gulf. Okay, and we have two rivers up here, Euphrates and the Tigris. Let's see, let me quiz you just a little bit. Regarding the Tigris River, what important city is located on the Tigris River? Nineveh. Boy, you guys are good. That's excellent. All right, now we're going to move along with that. And we are going to identify Haran up at the top, and down here, and Babylon, and there's Nineveh up there in the Tigris River, and a place called Kadesh Barnea, and Mount Sinai, maybe Mount Sinai's here, probably not. Okay, here's Egypt over here, the Nile River, and this is the area known as Canaan, the Promised Land, and okay, we have that. This is all review. Now the first thing we start is in Genesis chapter 12, don't we? And that's where our geographical sweep begins. In Genesis chapter 12, God calls Abram from Ur of the Chaldees, and he says, Abram, I'm going to make of you a great nation, so leave your family, leave the land, and I'm going to show you a place, I'm going to make of you a great nation. And so he makes the trip. But Dad comes along, and it's Dad to who? And no, that's uncle. Who else? Abraham's wife, Sarah. They are half brother and sister. So Dad comes along for both Abraham and Sarah, and they go up to Haran. And then finally Terah dies, and Abram, Sarah, Lot leave Haran and move to Canaan. They're finally on their way to obeying what God has commanded, and they get down to Canaan, go to Shechem, offer a sacrifice. Abram eventually has Isaac. Isaac has Jacob and Esau. Jacob has 12 sons. Son number 11 is Joseph. And he had a raincoat of... Raincoat? Okay, he is sold into slavery to Egypt, and eventually he becomes a prime minister of Egypt. Jacob moves the rest of his family to Egypt. By the way, does anybody know what date that was? 1876. Okay. And then we have Israel down in Egypt for how many years? 430. And 430 years they're down there, and finally there's a king that rises up, and he doesn't know Joseph or the family, and there is oppression of the people. We're going to be talking about that tonight. And so God leads them out under the man Moses. And they leave Egypt, cross the Red Sea, and then they go down they arrive down at Mount Sinai. All right, at Mount Sinai they get the law, they build the tabernacle, get the book of Leviticus, and enter into the Mosaic covenant with God at Mount Sinai. Then they leave Sinai, move to Kadesh Barnea, and there they send 12 spies into the land of Canaan. Spies come back, and say, let's go in, it's great. No. The spies come back, and 2 of them say, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Go in. But the other 10 say, no way. No way. We are like grasshoppers in their sight, and they are giants. We can't do it. And so God judges that generation and says, okay, 20 years of age and older, you're not going in to the promised land. Apparently they could vote at age 20. So they will do some wandering through the wilderness. I just put a few locations here of where they will wander. They will eventually wind up at Mount Nebo. And somebody dies at Mount Nebo. Who was that? Moses. God buries him. And then Joshua takes over. They cross the Jordan River. And they have a central campaign under Joshua, and then a southern campaign and a northern campaign under Joshua. But it is an incomplete conquest and results in a national religious or spiritual crisis. And that would be the period of what? Of national crisis. Judges. Okay, we have Judges. It was time of anarchy. There were 15 judges, starting with Othniel. Ehud's one of my favorite ones. Does anybody know anything special about Ehud? No, that was Eglon. Ehud and Eglon get together, though, with a knife between them. All right, but anything special about Ehud? Ehud, the left-handed judge. He was left-handed, and being left-handed contributed to his ability to kill the king. Okay, of course, we got several of these. Some of them you recognize, Gideon and Samson. Jephthah, if anybody wants to do a paper, I'd suggest you do it on Jephthah's vow. Now that's an interesting paper. The last of the judges and first of the prophets is who? Samuel. All right. And Samuel crowns the first 2 kings in the new area called the United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, we have 3 kings. They each reigned how many years? 40. First king is? Second king is? Third king is? When Solomon dies in what year? 931. He will die. Jerusalem, by the way, was the capital then of the United Kingdom. And when he dies, the kingdom splits. And now it's Israel in the north. The 10 tribes of the north retain the name of Israel. South is called Judah. Jerusalem remains the capital now of Judah. Eventually the north will get the capital of what? Samaria. Eventually. Okay, there were 20 kings in the north, and they were all bad. 20 kings in the south. 8 of them were good. And then in what year? 722 BC, the northern kingdom goes into captivity as God had been warning them through the prophets. If you don't live according to the law and you worship other gods, I'm going to exile you. I'm going to take you to the far corners of the earth. And you're going to be, you're going to be scattered. And that's exactly then what happens with the northern tribes. Now I've got it to Nineveh, but they go, twice that distance actually. Way past Nineveh, eventually. And then the south lasts longer, and they go into captivity in what year? 586. To where? Babylon. And that captivity lasts for how many years? 70. They return and rebuild the land, and rebuild the temple, recommit themselves, and that's the end of the Old Testament. How about that? We've just gone through the whole thing. Okay? Backwards, it looks like that. Okay? And so if you can just get a grasp of that, we go from Ur to Haran, Haran to Canaan, Canaan to Egypt, Egypt, cross the Red, down to the Sinai, get the law, and so on, and then up to Kadesh Barnea, make the worst decision of all. We can't trust God. And they wander. Moses dies, Joshua takes over, 3 campaigns, anarchy,